much, and great to be here. Lovely to see so many people here. Thank you. I'm really delighted to be back here in what is my hometown of Bristol, and to be here at Engine Shed, a place that captures everything that's great about this city, the past, the present, and the future. We're in the part of the original Temple Meads train station, designed by Brunel. Today, thanks to Bristol University and to the City Council, as we've just heard, there are very promising startups right here at Engine Shed. There are app developers and apprentices in residence, the business creators and skilled workers of tomorrow. I've had the pleasure of just seeing some few fantastic examples already this morning. So it's the perfect spot for me to talk about the government's plans for business. In the city where I learned almost every important thing that I know about business. The business in question was beneath the flat. I was lived in the flat beneath, above my parents' home, my parents' shop in Stapleton Road. I shared it with my 4 brothers. It was a clothes shop, the basis of my deep knowledge of ladies' clothing. I'm certain that no male MP knows more about women's wear. At least I think that's true. But most important, it was the culmination of my parents' ambitions. They came to this country in 1964 with dreams of a better life. My dad started off working in a cotton mill, then he drove buses, and at weekends he ran a clothing store at the local market. As trade grew, he got more pitches in Rochdale, then Manchester, then Liverpool. Meanwhile, my mum was back at home, looking after us all and making clothes for the store. The sound of my childhood was her Singer sewing machine hammering away in the background. Later, as a family, we got that shop on Stapleton Road, and therein lay the soul of my family. It was a 24/7 concern. We all mucked in. For me, I remember, age 9 or 10, it's the first time I started properly helping my dad at the weekends in the store. I used to love wearing that money belt, serving the customers, the feeling of being in control. Our fortunes, our happiness, they fluctuated as a family with the day's takings. It instilled in me an unwavering belief in enterprise, opportunity, and reward for hard work. Above all, I know what it's like to run a small business. That's why I'm here today to talk about what the government will do to support you. I'm here to expand on what David Cameron said while visiting the Tetley factory in Stockton-on-Tees last week, to add another tea bag to the pot. The Prime Minister said this would be a government delivering for working people, for hard-working taxpayers, for men and women, giving them the dignity of a job and the pride of a paycheck. He promised that we would train 3 million more apprentices, improve childcare for people who want to work or work longer, and cut taxes. The momentum we've gained over the last 5 years is for all to see. 2.2 million private sector jobs created since 2010, meaning we now have in the UK record employment. 750,000 more businesses created since 2010. Almost 28,000 recipients of startup loans, realising the dream of running and owning their own business in places just like this in Bristol. Make no mistake, government isn't responsible for the entrepreneurial boom. That's down to individuals alone. People with the guts and the gumption to risk everything on starting something from scratch. Meaning parents can bring home a family wage, putting communities back to work locally, planting the seeds of a regional recovery and the economic recovery, the strongest in the G7, the healthiest in Europe. Thanks to you, Britain can look forward with greater confidence. Yes, Britain is a nation of shopkeepers, of plumbers and hairdressers, of florists and cafe owners. Our great nation, together, strong, on the road to prosperity as one. And we've been on the side of business. We cut corporation tax so the UK rate is now the lowest in the Western world. We cut national insurance contributions. We cut the cost of regulation on UK businesses by some £10 billion. And by getting on top of the deficit, we help keep interest rates low and funding rates low. Now, during the election, we promised to do more for business, much more. As one of our first acts, we're introducing the Enterprise Bill. As some of you might know of my love of Star Trek, I did want to call it the Starship Enterprise Bill. The PM was not convinced. Now, first and foremost, it will serve the interests of small business. Second, it will simplify and clarify the business environment in this country. And third, it will focus on jobs, so employers can create those additional 2 million jobs, and their focus on growth isn't obstructed by disproportionate industrial action. So let me describe the next steps on deregulation, on paring back bureaucracy. Our manifesto promises a further £10 billion of cuts in red tape over the coming Parliament. This £10 billion is going to be harder to slash than the previous £10 billion. Recent reforms have already started to make a big difference. Simpler audits for businesses, less bureaucracy for house builders and developers, fewer employment disputes reaching costly tribunals, car mechanics and valleys no longer have to do training that's only useful to lorry drivers, childminders no longer have to self-register as a food business, hundreds of live music and community events can now be exempted from entertainment licensing. Thousands of regular businesses no longer face health and safety inspections. And there's less of the stuff that sometimes invites utter derision. So no more slaps on the wrist for no smoking signs in the wrong place or of the wrong size. No need anymore to report any sightings of grey squirrels on your property. If you leave your sandwich on a bus, the bus company no longer needs to hold onto that sandwich for 48 hours before it puts it into the dustbin. And come Christmas, you can buy a box of crackers without having reached the age of consent. We already have the lowest burden of regulation in the G7. But now we're also going to tackle European regulation head-on, pressing EU institutions to reduce needless burdens in business, ensuring we implement EU law in a way that doesn't put UK business at a competitive disadvantage. Over the next 5 years, we'll build on the success of the 1 in, 2 out to put a strict brake on new regs. We will enable the actions of regulators to be counted towards achieving the overall £10 billion in cuts. This will be the first time in modern history that government has successfully reduced red tape and continued with such reductions in the next Parliament. And business will be our partner in achieving this, giving us the evidence we need to continue rolling back the budget. Our crucial aspect of this rollback will be the extension, one of the crucial aspects will be the extension of the rule that's known as primary authority. Primary authority allows a business to get advice on regulation from a single local council. This advice must then be respected by all other local councils, reducing the time and the cost to businesses of having to obey multiple masters. When Primary Authority came in, the purpose was to help larger firms trading nationwide. But it was so successful that we opened it to small business in 2013. Today, more than 2/3 of the businesses that are taking advantage of Primary Authority are small businesses. It frees them from inconsistent and confusing red tape. It reduces their operational costs and allows them to focus on expansion. Butcher shops, convenience stores, restaurants, manufacturers. Thanks to Primary Authority, cheesemakers don't have to display their cheddar on wooden boards in one place and steel platters in another. Yet only a tiny fraction of small businesses who could benefit are actually doing so. So, we're going to simplify Primary Authority itself, making it far easier for small businesses to access the scheme. And we're going to extend its reach. Now there's one more area I wish to cover this morning. It's a subject that's exercised me for some time. There's a situation familiar to small businesses up and down the country. A letter turns up from a large customer changing payment terms or charging them to remain a supplier. In some cases, even deducting that charge on the spot against the payment that's owed. This pattern of behaviour is an outrage. It is bullying, pure and simple. In 2008, late payment alone cost British business around £19 billion. This year, that's set to exceed £40 billion. The average amount owed to small business is more than £30,000. Now you know as well as I what figures like that can do to the cash flow of a small business. It's enough to force some businesses into insolvency. We've not been blind to these issues. During the last Parliament, we introduced legislation requiring the UK's largest companies to report on their payment practices. That's going to shine a light on poor performance when it comes into effect next April. Recent U-turns show that public scrutiny can make big firms mend their ways. We also strengthened the Prompt Payment Code to introduce maximum 60-day payment terms and promote 30 days as the norm. Government has rightly been leading by example. We pay our suppliers within 30 days. We've brought in measures now requiring all public sector contracts to pay out within 30 days too, all the way down the supply chain. Now we're going to widen the powers for representative bodies to act on behalf of their members to challenge grossly unfair payment terms. There'll be a consultation on this later this year. And we will fulfill our manifesto pledge to set up a small business conciliation service to help small businesses settle their problems with large corporations. The purpose is to avoid expensive legal costs and maintain business relationships by reaching mutually satisfactory agreements. This model has worked in Australia. We will explore it and other models and find out what works best here in the UK. Now that isn't the sum total of what we're planning to do. Far from it. We're going to review business rates. From April next year, no employer will pay national insurance for apprentices aged under 25. Some of this action will require legislation and will be announced in the Queen's speech. Some of it won't need new legislation. Either way, my message to you is clear. If you believe in the values of hard work and enterprise, then we think along exactly the same lines. If you're behind a shop counter, behind the wheel of a van, behind a new invention, then we are right behind you. If you're striving to do what my parents did a generation ago, here in Bristol or anywhere else in Britain, build a business, create jobs, improve the prospects of your children, then you have my utmost respect and you will have my total support. Thank you.